he entered West Building at 11:33. So the crash is at 11:28, enters the building at 11:33, or 11:33 exactly, and 11:33 in seconds, begins shooting at the classroom, and then he enters into what we believe is 111. I say believe, okay, at this time, 111, and he begins shooting. If you go over your timeline, look at it, you'll see more than 100 rounds were fired initially. Another 11 rounds were fired at 11:37, okay, and injuring 2 officers were approaching. That the rooms, the walls inside the interior are sheetrock, and bullets go through. The 2 were grazed at that point, retreated. I can tell you at 11:36, as we mentioned before, you had 3 Uvalde PD officers enter the west door. 11:35, 11:36, 2, and 2 Uvalde PD officers. So we had 4 officers, 7 officers right now in the building at 11:36. So that's pretty quick time, for considering all the different factors in that regard. There was never a school resource officer on the scene. A school resource officer did respond, and when he responded to the location. He heard a man with a gun. So he's off campus, he's in his vehicle, he responds rapidly. As he does, he sees what he thinks when he drives in, he sees what he thinks is the subject back here. It wasn't the subject, it was a teacher. He drives directly towards that subject, the teacher, and says, "I'm out with the subject." So it had already been reported on the radio, man with a gun, okay, at the school, after a crash. He thinks he's got the subject. He drives quickly. He drove, over 50 miles an hour into it, going towards the subject. And unfortunately, that wasn't the subject. The subject was right here. He passed the subject as he went. So that's why some of the confusion early on. Now, the doctrine for active shooters is clear. I mentioned it before. And it's 2 sets of it. Hey, you stop the killing, you stop the dying. The other part of that doctrine is you isolate, you distract, and you neutralize. Everyone's taught this. You require it in TCOL training. We practice it, we preached it. This is the doctrine, and it recognizes that you hear the sound of gunfire. When you get to gunfire, you don't stop. Okay, when you get there, you run into gunfire, okay, and it's so important to do so. And I'll tell you what, and I've said it before, and I hope I underscore this, there's no doubt in my mind that those officers would have gone, any one of them would have sacrificed their lives for those children, any one of them, if they knew there was kids in that room and teachers in that room. I have great confidence that those police officers, those local officers, would have done what was right. 11:40, we have Chief, first report, officers contained in the office. Contained is not a word for active shooter. Contained is a barricaded subject. Contained is a situation where you may have a hostage, you need a SWAT team. Okay, you have time. The C's, first you contain, then you communicate with the subject, then you call for SWAT, then you create an immediate action plan. That's not what this was. This was never anything more than an active shooter situation. But at some point, he's contained in the office. Then we have Chief Ariano calls Uvalde PD. It has been reported he did not have a radio with him. He did not. That was actually true. That was correct report. And this is the conversation that he had, and you can read it yourself in your notes. But all this for purposes of this, Chief Ariano. Hey, it's Ariano. Can you hear me? I'd like to tell you where we're at. It's an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. Where this man has an AR-15. He shot a whole bunch of times. We're inside the building. He's in one room. I need a lot of firepower, so I need this building surrounded with as many AR-15s as possible. Can you hear me? The dispatcher responds. You can be heard talking in the background and asking what room number. The chief, is the teacher with him? Is the teacher with him? Is she in the room as he's in? Can you hear him? Ma'am? Dispatcher, I'm right here. Chief, Ma'am, is the teacher with him in his classroom? Dispatcher, she's in another classroom. She's in room 102. Another person possible shot across from her. It wasn't in 102, it was 112. Is the accurate number. Chief Arianda, okay, we have him in the room. He's got an AR-15. He's shot a lot. He's in the room. He hasn't come out yet. We're surrounded, but I don't have a radio with me. Please let all units know he's going to be in a room. He's in room 111 or 112, and we're in here. I'm in the hallway. Sergeant, another sergeant are here. We need this place surrounded, and if you have SWAT, I need them to set up south side of the building, which is the nearest to the location to the funeral home. Dispatcher confirms SWAT location. Chief Ariando, yes. They need to be outside the building and prepared because we don't have enough firepower. Right now it's all pistols and he has an AR-15. You can get the SWAT team set up by the funeral home, okay? And we need, yes, I need more firepower in here because we have pistols and this guy's got a rifle. So I don't have a radio. If somebody can come in, the dispatcher, Chief Ariando, but I am going to drop it when he comes out of the door, all right? So I need you to bring a radio for me and give me my radio. For me, I need to get one rifle. Hold on, I'm trying to set him up, or set him. I'm going to set him up right now, okay? Do me a favor. Call me when SWAT is set up. I'm going to have you a vibrate, though. Call me twice if you have to. It's okay. All right, thank you. Questions have been asked about who's in charge. And much to the chagrin to some, that when people believe and what they hear, that when the FBI shows up, no, they're not in charge, okay? When other agencies show up, you're not in charge. It's the agency that has the original jurisdiction is in charge. But you have options. Just because you're in charge and you have the authority and you're the ranking official, senior official on site, you can actually delegate that down. In my case, the lower I delegate it, the better in terms of sound decision making. Or you can delegate it to another agency, or you can ask another agency to take the lead. This is common practice in ICS, in Incident Command. We practice that in Texas. We always practice it. We preach it. We're very careful, and you'll find when you talk to the experts in the alert training program, as self-deploying as a risk. Deciding who's in charge, deciding it on your own to take action without it being properly coordinated is a risk. It's one of the challenges you have in these type of situations. But nevertheless, in terms of if you're going to issue commands, okay, if you're going to direct action, you're the ranking official from the agency that has jurisdiction, you're the on-scene commander. Gunfire happens again at 11:40. Let's assume that was a barricaded subject. He was contained. Well, he fires again, and he's room 111 or 112. It's not reasonable to expect that there's children and teachers in that room still alive. 1141, Uvalde PD officer. We believe that he's barricaded in one of the offices. They're still shooting. More misinformation. He's not barricaded in an office, okay? He's in a classroom, 111 and 112. Dispatch asks if the door is locked, to which a Uvalde PD officer replies, I'm not sure. We have a hooligan to break it, a hooligan tool, so you can just break the lock and move in at the door. At 11:41, 4 first responders in the room from the east hallway. We had 2 constables, a fire marshal, and UPD officer. So officers continue to flood into the particular area. So we had 11 to begin with. We've had another 4 officers to it. The DPS trooper was the first DPS officer to arrive.
Director McCraw, we've got to ask you to,
yes,
best you can, speak into the mic.
Oh, yes, sir, I apologize.
So the system can pick it up. If you
yes,
can
sir.
pick that mic up, that would be
yes,
great.
Sir. All right. How about that, sir? Does that work?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman. At 11:42, we had a DPS trooper and 2 PD officers enter from the east hallway. She was there less than 2 minutes, looked around because at that point in time there's multiple officers, and she left the building to find other duties as assigned. 11:44, another suspect fired around. 11:44 later, UPD officers have some officers there available to get everybody back. a UCISD officer, Ruben Reese. And one of our sergeants, Sergeant Maldonado, actually drove Officer Reese to the scene. He enters at that point in time. An unknown officer says, they need to get out of the hallway. Well, before I need to talk about Officer Ruiz. He notes that she's been shot. He's talking about his wife. He got a call from his wife. His wife was in room 112 and later died. Unknown officer says, they need to get out of the hallway, to which an officer responds, Chief is in there. Chief is in charge right now. Hold on. 11:51, 7 Border Patrol agents enter the west door. There had been a call earlier for BORTAC, and BORTAC was en route. These aren't BORTAC agents that first responded. At 11:52, there's a first ballistic shield that enters the west door. At 11:52 later, UPD officers, units just showing up, can you help with crowd control? So officers after 11:52 are being diverted to crowd control activities. 11:53, unknown officer informs a DPS special agent that they need right now is a perimeter. Someone comments on whether there are still kids inside, to which the DPS special agent responds, if there is, then they just need to go in. Someone comments about whether there are still kids, in which he responds, if there is, then just need to go in. He enters the west building and is directed on where the suspect is focused on. This is from a body camera, and you'll note that any information that I'm using right now, it came from, it's color-coded, so when it's blue, it's body camera. Obviously, from video surveillance, it's either, whether it's funeral home and indicated, and of course, the Uvalde PD recordings as well. And you have that in your booklet. After some time, the DPS officer, said, "Are there kids in there? We need to go in right now." Then he said, "What's that?" Then whoever's in charge will determine that, because of what he recommended, if there's kids in there, we need to go get them. And then later on, the DPS agent, he left the scene to look for kids, found a young boy in the restroom in the west building that was hiding, and then went outside to look at search other classrooms. There's a PD channel recording. Again, it's critical that let the PD take the point. 11:58, after an unknown officer was asked where the shooter is, another unknown officer advises the school chief of police is in there with him. There's a 911 call at 12:03, and that's the call from Chloe, the first time Chloe calls. And of course, it's heart-wrenching to listen to her. She's in room 112, okay? She was actually the only child in room 12 that was uninjured. Okay, there was 8 children killed, 2 teachers killed in that room. And of course, she was uninjured. 9 children were injured in room 112. 12:03, the second ballistic shield enters the west door. 12:04, the third ballistic shield enters the west door, and yet there's no action. 12:09, PD officer, go around and get the master keys to the room. Elements of the BORTAC arriving at the elementary school was at 12:09 or 12:10, and I think the first BORTAC members went into the building at 12:15. During that time, the Uvalde ISD Ariano requests master key. Uvalde ISD Chief Ariano gives instructions to officers to have a sniper on the east roof. Master key, there's more than one master key for the west building. Anytime the locks were changed, there was another master key for that lock. So you may find a master key, but there's 2 master keys. You've got to get both master keys. So there was some frustration in the discussion about this master key doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because that master key is not for that door. 12:16, the USD chief says, I just need a key. The chief says, tell them to expletive wait. No one comes in. 12:20, the fourth ballistic shield shows up. At 12:21, importantly, the suspect fires 4 rounds. So if this is a barricaded subject, why is he still firing? Oh, thank you. The chief says at 12:28, let me back up to to 1221. Can you get a breaching tool, like a trailer house, like for a trailer house? The chief, we've lost 2 kids. These walls are thin. If he starts shooting, we're going to lose more kids. I have to say, we have to put those to the side right now. Uvalde chief attempts to communicate with a suspect in English and Spanish. Now, the entire communications was always one way. The suspect never communicated, so it was not communication. We're talking at. But an officer, there's a teacher shot in there, to which the Uvalde PD officer replies, I know. The chief, people are going to ask why we're taking so long. We're trying to preserve the rest of the life. The chief, do we have a team ready to go? Do we have a team ready to go? Have at it. It's at 1227. 1228, the chief. There's a window over there. Obviously, the door is probably going to be locked. Probably going to be locked. That is the nature of this place. I'm going to get some more keys to test. 1228, the chief. These master keys are working here, bro. Aren't working here, bro. We have master keys and they're not working. The chief at 1230. Okay, we've cleared out everything except for that room. We still have people down. They're just past the flag to the right. But we're ready to breach, but that door is locked. 1233. The chief. I say we breach through those windows and shoot his expletive head off through the windows. This is an hour and a half, an hour after you enter the building. An hour after you enter the building. 11:35, a hooligan tool arrives through the west door. At 12:38, the chief attempts to communicate with the suspect in English and Spanish. At 12:41, the chief says, just so you understand, we think there are some injuries in there. And so you know what we did, we cleared off the rest of the building so we wouldn't have any more besides what's already in there, obviously. 11:42, the chief says, we have an expletive problem getting into the room because it's locked. He's got an AR-15 and he's shooting everywhere like crazy, so he stopped. 12:43, Uvalde chief, they got to get that expletive door open, bro. They can't get that door open. We need more keys or something. 12:46, the chief says, if y'all ready to do it, you do it, but you should distract him out that window. 11:47, a sledgehammer enters from the east hallway. 11:50, the breach and termination gunfire. At the time, there was a stack of 7 officers that went in. Actually, only 4 went directly in because the door closed, as will happen in some of these operations, and left the 3 out. 3 entered thereafter, shortly thereafter. 5 officers fired rounds at the subject, killing the subject at that time.